Each week, American History TV's American Artifacts takes viewers behind the scenes at archives, museums, and historic sites. Here's a featured extra from a recent program.
Welcome to the office of the Secretary of the Treasury. This is Tim Geithner's office. And this became the office of the Secretary in 1910. And as we've seen, the office of the Secretary has progressively moved around the building as the Treasury building has become modernized. And in 1910, what happened was a major renovation was done of the Treasury building. And at that time, new systems were put into the building, and it was deemed that the corner office, and we're now at sort of the corner of the building with a very nice view of the Washington Monument, the Department of Commerce, that this corner office, very well-lit office, would become the office of the Secretary of the Treasury. The office is adorned, and this is our sort of portrait that I spoke of before of Alexander Hamilton. This was done by Carolyn Ransom. She was hired by Secretary Sherman to paint the likeness of Hamilton. The likeness of Hamilton was then put into this very sort of elaborate colonial revival frame and has been in the office ever since 1910. The office of the Secretary, unlike his predecessors, Secretary Chase and Secretary Johnson, the current office of the Secretary is not a restored suite. It is a working office in the very sort of modern conventional sense. In this particular case, antiques have been incorporated into the scheme of the office, has sort of has furniture. The desk, the present Secretary's desk, is from the Treasury collection. It's a mahogany desk that dates to the 1920s. It has a desk lamp that dates to, I believe, 1910 to 1920, a bronze lamp. Also, there's an earlier piece in the office. There's a desk that was used by a clerk. It's a clerk's desk in the Treasury building. And that's, once again, part of our collection of antiques that have survived throughout the Treasury building. In this particular case, it was a standing desk, so that an accountant or whatever could essentially do his work standing up. Artwork in the office is provided by the National Gallery of Art, and there's a very specific sort of connection with the National Gallery. And that is the fact that one of our secretaries, Andrew Mellon, a very long-serving secretary, founded the National Gallery of Art. And as part of his founding of the National Gallery of Art, the Secretary of the Treasury, along with the Secretary of State, sits on the board of the National Gallery of Art. And if you go into the very large rotunda, the marble rotunda of the National Gallery, the West Wing, you'll see inscribed in stone on the marble wall the names of the Secretaries of the Treasury following their illustrious predecessor, Andrew Mellon, in that tradition. Part of the office is the collection of flags. You have the American flag, you have the Treasury flag, and the Treasury Department, like other older departments, does have its own sort of flag, Department of Treasury flag. And there's also an interesting flag in executive offices, senior executive offices, and that is the flag of rank. And a flag of rank for the Treasury Department, and we have seen this before, we saw it on the mantle in the Andrew Johnson suite, incorporates as part of its design anchors and a shield from the Coast Guard. We have to remember that the Coast Guard was part of the Treasury Department until 1965. And before 1965, the flag of rank for the office of the Secretary was adopted from the Coast Guard flag. And implanted on the Coast Guard sort of anchor, if you will, is the shield, which we've seen now many times throughout the building, of the Treasury Department. The scales of measure of justice, the stars of the 13 colonies, and the key. We're now going to go into the Secretary's small conference room. The Secretary has as part of the suite concept, has a small meeting room at his service, and that's a small conference room. I am now walking into the space that is the Secretary's small conference room. And once again, we have a suite of offices that frame or encompass the Secretary's office, one of which is his small conference room. And this, since 1910, this room has been used as a space for the Secretary to have meetings, but also to dine, and it's furnished in that particular sort of method or mode. We have an American sideboard from the early 19th century, a New England piece, probably New Hampshire, first decade of the 19th century, along with a period-appropriate table and chairs. The walls in this particular suite are embellished with these huge, they're very large, frames of currency from the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And we have in the Treasury building a significant number of these frames. They were made for fairs and expositions, and the Bureau of Engraving and Printing would print their sort of currency. This is a currency that represents the period United States notes, 1874, 75, 78, to show the artistry, essentially, of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. They're engravers. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing prints, obviously, money, but they also engrave decorative elements, including the Secretary of the Treasury and President of the United States, their portraits. This particular frame is surrounded by the various seals of the United States and also the sort of various bills of this particular period. The frame on this wall is more of the same, the United States notes, showing silver certificates and gold certificates. Our cash room was a room where, until 1975, you could come and redeem any government draft for cash. By draft, I mean a note. If you had a gold certificate or a silver certificate, you could come to the Treasury building and receive gold or silver for whatever currency note that you had in your possession to show the stability, financial stability at that particular time of the United States of America, right down to 1975. The room has a mantle and overmantel mirror. Again, the overmantel mirror, one of many from the Treasury collection, and a mantle that is original to this particular space. The reason that this space down to 1910 had a mantle is because even with the renovation of the building in 1910, the conventions of coal burning fireplaces were well regarded by the occupants of the building, and they were retained.